Hi, Collective. I wasn't going to necessarily record tonight because I didn't feel like it, even though I originally planned to after I came back from the gym. But I was guided to read this book um, called It Didn't Start With You. And after I read the book, I felt like I really wanted to hop on and do a quick reading for you guys. Some messages I got beforehand. In order to release yourself from shame and guilt, you must release in order to release others from shame and guilt, you must release yourself from shame and guilt. So you may be struggling with feelings of shame or guilt, specifically around your childhood, and it may cause you to judge the people around you that didn't protect you during that time in your life and project a lot of shame and guilt onto them. You may have a lot of blocks in your relationships with your family or those that are supposed to be close to you because of this shame and guilt. And it's because you feel a lot of shame and guilt within yourself over what may have happened, what may have things that you might have needed that weren't provided to you as far as love, stability, support. Your root chakra may be something that you struggle with a lot, finding a sense of stability in any place in your life. Even if you're financially stable, you may suffer from some emotional instability. Maybe even when you're emotionally stable, you may suffer from some financial stability or relationship instabilities. And so some root chakra work would be very helpful for you. I'm also drawn to the fact that I'm wearing the color red. I was drawn to wear the color red. So look up some things to help with your root chakra, frequency work, focused meditations on your root chakra, and then trying to stay present as much as possible and not allowing yourself to go back so much in those past thoughts and past behaviors, because when you live in the past, it's going to continue, it's hard to heal something that you keep reminding yourself of. And that's not to ignore what didn't happen to you, but you have to go through the process of acknowledging it and working on healing that wound. Another message that I got: your parents were once children. Take what you have learned and love this version of them. Your parents could still be very childlike, and you could operate from this energy of I'm a child, so I shouldn't have to parent my parent. And no, it's not your responsibility to parent your parent, but it is your responsibility with the path that you have chose to walk in a space of love. When I was thinking about opening up my chakras, for some reason I had skipped my heart chakra. You may have a lot of heart chakra blocks. Again, a lot of this guilt and shame. You find it hard to love yourself, and therefore you find it hard to love other people where they're at. You may be a sort of person that wants to change or shape the people around you into who you want them to be, when on a subconscious level sometimes we embrace this energy of being the person that pushes other people, but it's really not your job to push other people into being some sort of version of them that makes it acceptable for you to have them in your life. You have to love them and accept them for where they're at, and even if you don't match up vibrationally, then that's a person that you can still offer love to, but maybe just not spend your time and your energy around. But while reading that book, I was drawn to how he went to Indonesia, and I did too, and that trip was very cathartic for me. And I remember before I even went to a healing session with the second healer I visited, I had told my partner, I feel like I'm going to continue to find it hard to communicate with you and to love you in a healthy way until I heal the relationship that I have with my mother. And then when I went and seen him, he said exactly what I had said earlier in the day about that. And also that my relationship with money is connected to my father as well, which it took me a while to understand that. But considering the dynamic between my parents and in my household, I could see how some of my blocks around money have rooted from this dynamic that I've seen with my father. But there was always a lot of resentment built up around my mother, so you could have a deep mother wound. You could have a hard time trying to understand and accept your mother for who she is. And this is a journey. This is not about it being some sort of perfect relationship, because I think you may be very attached to an idea of how you feel like this relationship is supposed to look, an idea of how this relationship is supposed to feel. Um, you can have a beautiful relationship with someone and it not be you're entwined in every part of each other's DNA and every aspect of each other's world. You may be a very intense person and find it very hard to draw boundaries within your relationships. But your relationship with your parent, you really have to, in order to have a healthy relationship with them, you're going to have to learn to accept them where they're at. And I can understand that this can be very dicey if your parent comes off toxic. But what I've known from um, dealing with my partner and having some very chaotic episodes earlier in our relationship, when he didn't match my energy, it really made me realize how I was not responding in the healthiest way. And I think that that could be significant if you have a parent that's very narcissistic, if you try to call them out on certain things and they don't really want to acknowledge it. That one, you stand firm in your truth and you pick up tools to learn how to stay grounded in your energy while not trying to project anger or resentment onto them. I think acceptance is one of the hardest things in the world to do. But the more that you accept them for who they are, the less emotional you're going to be when they don't show up in the way that you think that they're supposed to show up. Because for better or for worse, they are probably doing their very best, and there's a lot of subconscious things that we don't even notice when we're engaging in certain things, and especially if you're not on a spiritual journey. Think back to a time in your life when you weren't in a space of being more self-aware. You didn't necessarily react to certain things or do certain things out of this malicious intent to try to hurt other people or to hurt yourself. And I think in a lot of ways your parents may exhibit some childlike behaviors and it can be very frustrating to you. But you're just going to have to get over wanting this relationship in which you can feel like a kid and just not have to be the bigger person in the room, or whatever you want to say, because it's part of your purpose of being here. It's just part of your calling, and the more that you heal this relationship with them, the more it's going to help you in every other area of your life. Especially, again, if you're struggling around relationships and struggling around communication, and most importantly, struggling with this bond with yourself, with this level of acceptance with yourself. You have to accept the parts of you that they rejected or that they didn't acknowledge in order to forgive them. Because once you get to that point, you really start to understand that nothing was ever personal and a lot of it was projection. You really start to hear the things that they say and the way that they talk about themselves. A person that does not say a nice thing about themselves will never be able to say a nice thing about you. And it gives you a certain level of empathy when it comes to them. And like I said, this is something that I definitely feel like is a journey, because I still struggle with it. But he definitely, I feel like in that book, spoke to what it means to be on this healing journey. You cannot just talk the talk and not walk the walk. You can walk around with that resentment in your heart, but it's only going to end up hurting you at the end of the day. Because another thing that he said that I think is very just profound, is that he had a conversation with his father, and his father said, I didn't think you ever loved me. And I feel like sometimes we have so much built up in us. We've kept score of so many times that they've let us down, that it clouds out any good that is in them or any good that they've done. And because a lot of the time they really don't understand why we don't want to be around or why we don't communicate in a certain way. And I know it can seem very obvious, but I promise you 9 times out of 10, if you do have a parent that's more narcissistic, and just because the personality type that is, they're likely not even going to, they're going to have a hard time acknowledging it, because they already don't really like themselves, and that's like one more thing that makes them not like themselves. But because there's a lack of, there's a disconnection with their selves, if you brought it up to them, which, feel free to do that in your own space when you feel grounded enough, and like I said, you're not attached to them validating what you're saying, but you're saying it just because you need to get it off your chest and you deserve that space to say it. I feel like there would be a point where they would just be like very surprised that you had all of this built up in you. And so I feel like when we operate out of this space of like keeping score, and it just compiling and compiling and compiling, I don't even think we realize, and I know this for me, like sometimes when my mother calls me and just to check on me, like I feel irritation, like I feel anger, like she can be just looking to see how I'm doing, and I'm just like why are you calling me? And I can imagine when I read that, I got emotional, because I think about how one that can't feel good for all of her rights, for all of her wrongs. Like I said, I know what this journey means for me, and that is something that I'm going to work on, is trying to really move in this space of forgiveness and understanding, and most importantly, acceptance that that the same way that I don't want anybody to come up to me and be like, I wish, you know, if you did this and this and this and this, I would like you more, is the same way that I want to stop expecting her to be anybody other than she is, and learn to love her for where she's at, and to see the positive traits in her, because none of us are 100% just a horrible person, and none of us are 100% just light. Like I want to work on that, and I feel the need to share that, because that might be something that you're struggling with or working through, and it's not something to feel bad about, you know. It's just something to be aware of and make little baby steps, you know. Just, I think I'm gonna start trying to check on her, maybe if it's just even once a week, checking in and exposure therapy, and trying to have a different sort of conversation, trying to direct the conversation, and in a more just open and vulnerable space. And again, whatever the reaction is whatever the reaction is. But I do think that is important. You may be having some blocks around some certain things, and you may be struggling letting some anger and resentment go, and a lot of that is rooted to our parental relationship. So I am going to draw just a couple cards from the Celestial Insights deck. Collective needs to hear, collective needs to know, speak to me and through me, allow me to convey the clearest message to whoever needs to hear this video at this point in time. Test. Life's challenges are opportunities for growth. You may be facing a difficult decision or situation, but don't shy away from it. Embrace the test, and you'll emerge stronger and wiser. Yeah, don't run away from these feelings. You running away from these feelings is what continues to have these feelings chasing you. While you keep feeling like you've been in therapy, you've done the work, you've done the things, and you're still feeling some of these heavy emotions, and it's because when we're doing self-work, and it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, but there's a different level of just work, I don't know how to say it, that is like done when you're at home and you're meditating, or you're in therapy and it's just you. But when you're faced with having to face the people that have caused you trauma, I feel like that is a different sort of landscape that a lot of us kind of run away from. And why we get to the point where we're like, that really doesn't, that really doesn't bother me. But then when something comes up that was similar to that energy, it still very much bothers you. And it's easier to act like it doesn't, because it is very hard to face the people that you do love and you do care about, but that you feel rejected by. But unless you work through this and you figure out how to work through this and you figure out how to release the shame and the guilt and the anger and the resentment that you have around whatever the situation is, it's going to continue to block you from certain things. Block you creatively, I'm hearing. Block you financially. Block you in loving relationships. You can struggle in relationships a lot. You can either attract partners that remind you of one or the other of your parents, or you could notice certain traits in yourself that remind you of one or other of your parents, and that's where a lot of that shame and guilt comes from too. Spirit, the power of your spirit is always there, quietly supporting you. If you feel lost, take time to listen to your inner voice. Through meditation or simple outdoor activities, you can reconnect with your inner strength. Yeah, don't be too hard on yourself in this process. And don't I feel like you're a perfectionist and you feel like you should already be healed by now with all the work that you've been in. It's not a use, or that you've been doing. That's not a useful. I understand it. I understand it 100%, but this is a journey and it's cyclical. I remember when my therapist told me that, like, healing is a cycle, and I got so irritated because I'm like, certain things I just want to be done with, but you have to embrace that. This is a time. Acceptance is the overlaying message of this reading, is that you need to accept the things that you can't change. And that are the way that they are for a very specific reason. I'm going to pull one more card. We got two. I'm drawn to this reflection first. Reflection breeds deeper insight. Have you been avoiding self-reflection? Take time to sit with your thoughts and feelings. Your inner world holds the answers you seek. And I'm hearing, don't seek so much. You may be seeking a little too hard. When you meditate, sit and let it come to you. Don't judge your thoughts. Don't judge the way you feel. Allow it to flow to you. The more that you seek, the harder it is to find what you're looking for. Guilty. Guilt can hold you back. Are you carrying the weight of past decisions? Forgive yourself and move forward. Only then can you truly grow. Yeah. Go and grow. You may be looking to go somewhere, to start something. It's the guilt that's holding you back. You're still feeling guilty about some things. Yeah. Release yourself from the guilt and shame, because that's been one of the big things I feel like for me energetically this month, is releasing my guilt and my shame, especially around like my relationship with food. And it's been a very healing process, because I'm training myself to stop using it as a form of punishment, which could be significant for you. You could use a lot of different things as a form of punishment: sex, drugs, food, alcohol, relationships. So release yourself from this guilt, and it's going to open up this pathway that you're looking for. Yeah. I send you guys off with all the love in the world. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. If you resonate with my energy and you want to hear more readings, please feel free to subscribe, like, and comment. I hope you guys have a great night. Bye.